Support for an infrastructure deal is expanding. 21 senators on board with the yet-to-be-released plan, including 11 Republicans. In a statement yesterday, the group wrote in part, quote, "We support this bipartisan framework that provides an historic investment in our nation's core infrastructure needs without raising taxes." The support comes one day after Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced that Democrats are planning a budget measure that could bypass the filibuster. A bipartisan deal will ultimately need 60 votes to pass. There is still no guarantee that all 50 Democrats will vote for it. Meanwhile, new Monmouth University polling shows the majority of Americans support President Biden's infrastructure proposal, regardless of party. 68% of Americans say they're on board with the plan, compared to 29% who oppose it. Joining us now here on set in Washington, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York and Congressman Seth Moulton of Massachusetts. They're both calling for a high-speed rail funding to be included in the infrastructure package.
I'll take it.
Yes.
I'll take it. I'm in these cows.
We so agree with that.
So before we get to this, after the election, you tweeted some things that I thought were hopeful about how Democrats campaign. Because as a former Republican who now is paying more attention on how Democrats campaign, I'll just tell you, it drives me crazy. And I was like, wait a second.
Drives me crazy too sometimes.
I know. Well, and that's what I want to talk about. You were talking about what nobody else was talking about. Like after the election, everybody was blaming everybody for everything. But you were like, hey, wait a second. You got to knock on doors. And I know there was COVID, but I kept saying, knock on doors, put on the mask, talk to people. But they said we can't do it. That's exactly what you did. Can you talk about what a difference it makes when you're campaign leaning forward, when you're like really aggressively reaching out to people, and why that didn't happen in 2020?
Yeah, well, you know, I think conversations, real conversations, is what's most influential. And that's why it's so important for us to not just do this during campaign season, but during governance season, making sure that we're out here having town halls with our communities, constantly delivering our message. And because the thing is that we have good things to say, actually. We need to say them well and in person, especially in an age of disinformation and misinformation. One of the most effective ways to cut and combat misinformation online is the actual in-person interaction. And so, for example, with the high-speed rail work that Seth and I are doing, we want to go out and we should be telling every person in America, millennials and Gen Z should be the most unionized workforce and unionized generation in modern American history. And the way that we're going to do that is by having massive infrastructure proposals that draw down our climate emissions, that ensure that we are creating millions of union jobs in this country and connecting rural and underserved communities to economic opportunities and affordable housing.
Yeah, and Congressman, she talked about town hall meetings. No, it's
amazing, right?
That's all I did. I did hundreds of town hall meetings.
Many.
And I look at these numbers that we put up every day. Americans support your proposals overwhelmingly.
That's right.
And yet we keep hearing about how these little slogans are going to make a difference next year. Doesn't make a difference if you're talking to your constituents in town hall meetings, does it?
And you know what? When you're talking with constituents, you're also listening. And you're hearing what the American people want. And the American people want us to invest in the future. They don't want us to just be filling the last generation's potholes. They want high-speed broadband. They want high-speed rail. We should be able to get to New York in an hour and a half. You should be able to get from New York City to Albany, 152 miles, in 36 minutes.
Could you do me a favor? Could you get me from JFK to Midtown in less than an hour?
But you know what? It's not just about the East Coast. The most popular high-speed rail line in the world right now.
Show. Thank you so much.
Is Beijing to Shanghai.
Yeah.
That's the same distance as Chicago to Atlanta. And that's not just good for Chicago and Atlanta. It's good for Louisville, Chattanooga, Indianapolis, all these communities in between who would be connected by high-speed rail.
But aren't you guys right now pushing something that Republicans totally would agree with? I mean, this is infrastructure.
You overestimate.
Are there sticking points with this?
I think so, because here's the deal. Fossil fuel industry opposes electrified high-speed rail. There's a lot of special interests that do not want to see mass transit. And this is one of the big reasons why, you know, we had the technology for EVs about 100 years ago. We had technologies for electrified rail over the last 100 years. And one of the big reasons why that didn't happen was because Congress was swayed and lobbied the first time by fossil fuel industries, by car industries, et cetera. And so that's why the fight on this and the fight on voting reform and getting big money out of politics is also so crucial for the future of our politics.
Yeah, and Jonathan, I mean, we've all been on Amtrak, time and again. You look at our competitors across the globe, whether you're looking at China or Japan, you're looking at Europe. Everybody's ahead of us. Everybody's way ahead of us on this. It doesn't really make sense. I keep wondering why America has been dragging their feet over the past 30, 40 years. And part of it is, of course, the reason why, you know, you look at L.A., why is L.A. such a mess? Because the auto industry and big oil lobbied against mass transit in Los Angeles for a very long time.
I'm going to be on Amtrak in about 2 hours, so if you can get this done between now and then, that would be great. Congressman, this is sort of go time right now for the idea of there's going to be an infrastructure in a bipartisan way. I asked the president yesterday on the tarmac in Geneva whether or not he had seen the new proposal. He says he's not. He's been overseas. That's fine. But it's time now, next week or two, whether or not there's actually going to be some energy here to get this deal. What are your concerns about if a bipartisan deal is made, and it's at a smaller number than the president and the Democrats first proposed, what are you concerned about losing? What are some like red lines for you?
Well, I mean, usually I have to say, representing the Bronx and Queens, when these bipartisan deals come together, they tend to underserve the communities that are already underserved. Places like the South Bronx, Baltimore, you know, areas of Chicago, you know, across the country. And so not only do those communities get left behind and cut out in these bipartisan deals, but corporate interests get centered in these deals as well. And so that is number one. And so we need to make sure that our infrastructure policy, you know, I think our number one priority and what Democrats should prioritize is not process and how, but are we passing the deal that helps working people the most? Are we passing the deal that makes the most jobs? Are we passing a deal that brings down the most climate emissions? Are we passing a deal that raises wages and actually improves our infrastructure for the next generation? And if a bipartisan deal sucks up trillions of dollars in bridges to nowhere because it makes people feel good, then that's going to be a huge concern. We need to make sure that we're creating economic opportunities for people who are ignored in this country. And that's it's not just good policy, but it's good politics too. And that's what I think is politics at its best, is when the people who are helping people the most win. But we have to communicate that well too.
So let me ask both of you, and Congressman Moulton, we heard, and you mentioned voting rights, Congresswoman. Joe Manchin put out a memo yesterday on this, and it is, you know, probably the most significant existential, emotional issue. He is, of course, also at the center of the infrastructure talks. But on the voting rights thing in particular, both of you, do you think he's acting in good faith in proposing that compromise or not?
No, well, I don't think this is a place where you compromise. And I think that Joe Manchin should know better than that. He's in a very powerful place right now in history, and he's excited about that. But I think he's really out of touch with the times, and he's really out of touch with the American people and our fundamental values. There's no compromise when it comes to basic constitutional principles in a democracy.
Congressman?
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, there was audio leaked yesterday on The Intercept about the senator's conversations with big donors and saying, hey, you know, cut me a break on the commission and all. We should be negotiating with each other as colleagues, not with billionaires and donors, period. Our policies should be with other public servants and our colleagues, and that's not even negotiating with Republicans, elected officials. And so I think that, especially, again, when we talk about bipartisan deals, we should not be cutting out the big money provisions in H.R. 1. Because the big money provisions are what's driving down wages, and big corporate lobbyists that have a disproportionate megaphone on Washington, more than working people do. They are the ones that are coming after the big money provisions in H.R. 1 the most. And by the way, those dark money groups are the ones that are purchasing these voter suppression campaigns and organizing in places like Georgia, Texas, Arizona, election challenges. And so we have to address all of it in this bill.
I mean, you ask why we don't have high-speed rail. It's the airline lobby, the oil lobby, the car lobby. Any state in the country that wants to invest in a new highway gets an 80 or 90% match. A new airport, new runway, 80% match from the federal government. High-speed rail, nothing. That's policy from Congress. And where do you think that came from? It's big money.